My coffee mug slips from my fingers and shatters against the kitchen tile, sending ceramic shards skittering across the floor. I barely notice. My eyes remain fixed on my phone, thumb scrolling through image after image of smiling faces gathered in my aunt's sunlit backyard. 34 guests. I count them methodically, as if the number might somehow change if I try again. Cousins I haven't seen in years. My mother's college roommate. Even Great Aunt Judith, who needs a walker to get around. Everyone except me. The bridal shower photos show tables draped in cream-colored linens, floral centerpieces in Fiona's favorite coral and mint, champagne flutes raised in countless toasts. A celebration meticulously planned weeks, maybe months in advance. A celebration I never knew existed until this moment. The sting is sharper because just last month, I sent Fiona a handwritten congratulations card with pressed flowers from my balcony garden. I'd even offered to help design her wedding materials, invitations, programs, whatever she needed. Free of charge, a gift from one cousin to another. My Portland condo suddenly feels cold despite spring sunshine streaming through the windows. The light that warmed me minutes ago now feels harsh, exposing. I realize in that moment I wasn't just forgotten. I was deliberately erased. I sink onto a kitchen stool, memories washing over me like a tide I can't escape. Last Thanksgiving flashes before me. Aunt Marlene's voice carrying across the dining room as she praised Fiona's recent promotion at the bank. Vice president at 29? She'd announced, beaming at my younger cousin. Always knew she'd make something of herself. Then, Aunt Marlene's gaze had shifted to me, her smile thinning, and Ocean still doing that little hobby of hers, the logos and whatnot. That little hobby that paid for this condo. That little hobby that built a client list including 3 national brands. My parents had sat silently, nodding along, while relatives positioned Fiona as the golden one, right in front of me. Even when I'd mentioned the down payment on my condo, $150,000 I'd saved over 7 years. The conversation had quickly pivoted back to Fiona's engagement ring. My hands tremble as I pick up my phone again. I pull up my mother's contact information and press call before I can talk myself out of it. She answers on the 4th ring. Ocean? Is everything all right? Her voice holds that familiar note of concern tinged with judgment, as if she's already decided whatever I'm calling about is an overreaction. There was a bridal shower for Fiona yesterday. My voice comes out steadier than I expected. Everyone was there. Why wasn't I invited? A weighted pause stretches between us, then a sigh. Oh, that. Well, Marlene thinks you always make everything about yourself. Fiona deserves her special day. The accusation lands like a slap. Make everything about myself? When have I ever... Please don't start, Ocean. This is exactly what we wanted to avoid. Your cousin deserves to be celebrated without drama. I stand up straighter, suddenly aware that my shoulders have been hunched forward, my body instinctively making itself smaller. So I'm... drama now? That's what you all think of me? It's not personal, Ocean. Not personal. The same words my mother uses whenever she wants to dismiss my feelings. My free hand stops trembling. A strange calm settles over me as I realize this isn't a misunderstanding. This was deliberate, planned, discussed. I'm going to call Aunt Marlene. Ocean, don't... My mother's voice rises with alarm, but I've already ended the call. I find Aunt Marlene's number and dial, surprised by my own steadiness. When her voice comes through, clipped and impatient, I don't bother with pleasantries. Why wasn't I invited to Fiona's bridal shower? A pause. Then, I was wondering when you'd call. No apology, no excuse. Just cold acknowledgement. You shouldn't be there. Fiona deserves a day that's just hers. Just hers. As if my presence would somehow diminish my cousin's happiness. As if I'm a shadow that might darken her spotlight. I'm her cousin. Her only cousin. The words feel hollow even as I say them. Blood relation clearly means nothing. Listen, Ocean. Aunt Marlene's voice hardens. We've all discussed this. The wedding plans too. I suggest you don't make this into something bigger than it needs to be. Some relationships in this family are already strained. The threat isn't subtle. Push back. And what little connection I still have with my family might vanish entirely. I stand at my kitchen window, staring at the city spread out below, and suddenly understand with perfect clarity. My family values appearances over genuine connection. They always have. I hang up without saying goodbye, the silence in my apartment no longer oppressive but clarifying. A cardinal lands on my balcony railing, its bright red feathers vivid against the gray spring sky. It watches me for a moment before flying away, and I find myself wondering what it might be like to be that free. That day later, my phone pings with a notification while I'm sketching logo concepts for a new client. I almost ignore it. Deadlines wait for no one, but habit makes me glance at the screen. A group message from Aunt Marlene. Remember to bring Fiona's wedding flowers on Saturday. Good thing we didn't invite Ocean, less drama. My pencil stops mid-stroke. The room tilts slightly as I lean against the kitchen counter, my breathing shallow, the phone screen blurring before my eyes. I blink hard, reading it again. This wasn't an oversight, not a simple mistake, a coordinated family exclusion. I take a screenshot before the message disappears with a soft whoosh sound. Deleted, but not before I captured the evidence. The notification shows Fiona, Aunt Marlene, and my mother all in the thread. My mother, of course. The next morning, I drive to my parents' suburban home, the screenshot burning a hole in my pocket like a loaded gun. Mom answers the door in her gardening clothes, dirt smudged across one cheek. Ocean? What a surprise. I was just about to make some tea. I follow her into the living room where she sits in her favorite armchair, settling into it with the comfortable ease of someone who feels secure in their position. I remain standing, suddenly aware of the family photos arranged on the mantel. Fiona's centered in most of them, my face half hidden in shadows or caught mid-blink. I got an interesting message yesterday, I say, pulling out my phone. Accidentally sent to me. But her face changes when I show her the screenshot, not surprise, but resignation. She doesn't even try to deny it. We all agreed it would be easier this way, she says, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her pants. Fiona deserves a beautiful wedding without complications. Complications? The word tastes bitter. You mean me. Now, Ocean, don't be dramatic. She sighs, using the tone reserved for when I'm being difficult. Perhaps you should make other plans for that weekend in May. Other plans? I repeat, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. While my cousin gets married at the Grand Lake Hotel? That $95,000 wedding, where every distant relative I barely know is invited except me? Mom's eyebrows lift slightly. How did you know about the venue? Cousin Rachel called last week asking about carpooling to the wedding. A small, cruel satisfaction blooms when I see her flinch. She assumed I'd be there. The silence stretches between us like a chasm growing wider by the second. Your father and I think it's better this way, she finally says. The whole family agrees. The whole family has been told what about me exactly? I ask, voice barely above a whisper. She looks away, fiddling with a loose thread on her sleeve. Just that you've always been sensitive about Fiona getting attention. The betrayal lands like a physical blow. Years of holidays where I sat quietly while Fiona was showered with praise. Years of watching my accomplishments dismissed while hers were celebrated with champagne toasts. You're trying to erase me from the family narrative, I say, the realization crystallizing. Everyone already believes I'm difficult because that's what you've told them. That's not true, she protests, but her eyes won't meet mine. It is true, and now I have a choice except being excluded or risk losing what little connection we still have. Mom stands, crossing to the window. I hope you'll make the right decision. Your father and I have been helping with your property taxes. If you make trouble about this wedding. If I make trouble? The words escape in a harsh laugh. Like standing up for myself? Like refusing to be erased? This is exactly why Marlene thought it best not to include you. Her voice hardens. Everything becomes a drama with you. 1. I leave without saying goodbye, driving aimlessly for hours. 3 client deadlines pass while I sit paralyzed in my apartment, unable to focus on the simplest design tasks. 3 days of potential revenue vanish while I stare at my phone, waiting for anyone in my family to say this was all a terrible mistake. No one does. That evening, Isla brings Thai food and wine to my condo, listening as I recount every detail. Unlike my family, she doesn't interrupt or dismiss my feelings. That's textbook emotional manipulation, she says, refilling my glass. They're gaslighting you into believing you're the problem when they're the ones excluding you. Her validation feels like the first sip of water after days in a desert. Marlene and your mom are tag teaming to control the narrative, Isla continues. Classic toxic family dynamics. Later, alone on my balcony, I watch the city lights flicker on as darkness falls. The cardinal returns, perching briefly on the railing before flying away. As I sat there sipping wine gone warm, I wondered whether I should attend the wedding anyway and force a confrontation, or step away completely and build my own celebration elsewhere. The family I'd known all my life was slipping away, but was it worth fighting for relationships that caused so much pain? Fiona's engagement photos appear on my Instagram feed at precisely 8:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'm midway through my first cup of coffee when her radiant smile fills my screen, her fiancé gazing at her with practiced adoration against a backdrop of autumn leaves. The caption beneath cuts sharper than any knife could. celebrating our journey with those who truly support us, keeping our wedding intimate with only the people who've always been there. My phone buzzes 3 times in rapid succession. Private messages from cousins I've exchanged perhaps 10 words with at family gatherings over the years. Why are you causing drama during Fiona's special time? Family should support each other no matter what. Aunt Marlene is so upset about your behavior. I set my phone face down on the kitchen counter, my hand trembling slightly. The accusations make no sense until I realize what's happening. They're rewriting history, crafting a narrative where I declined an invitation, rather than acknowledging I was deliberately excluded. My grandmother's call comes that evening as I'm washing dishes, her voice wavering with disappointment. Ocean, honey, I never thought you'd refuse to support your cousin's special day. The plate in my hands nearly slips. Grandma, I wasn't invited. That's not what Marlene told me. Her voice hardens with certainty. She said you couldn't put aside your jealousy for even one day. After we hang up, I stand motionless at my kitchen sink, water running over my hands until it turns from warm to cold. The family story about me is taking shape without my input. According to Isla, who still speaks with my mother weekly, Aunt Marlene has been sharing tearful accounts of my jealousy issues with anyone who will listen. The following week, Barton Media cancels our contract for their spring campaign. The email is polite but clear. We've heard you can be difficult to work with. We need someone who fits our collaborative culture. 3 days later, Westerly Home Goods pulls out of our preliminary discussions. The loss of both projects carves $27,000 from my expected quarterly income. I track the connections methodically. Barton's marketing director plays tennis with my uncle. Westerly's owner attends the same church as Aunt Marlene. Sleep becomes a distant memory. I spend nights hunched over my computer, redesigning my portfolio website instead of resting. Every pixel adjustment, every color shift, feels like reclaiming a small piece of my narrative. At 3 a.m., with my eyes burning from screen glare, I wonder how many hours of work it will take to outrun the whispers. My once comfortable routine fractures. I stop visiting Marigold Coffee despite their perfect oat milk lattes because Aunt Marlene's bridge club meets there Thursday mornings. I drive 15 minutes out of my way to shop at a different grocery store after spotting my mother's friend Caroline, examining apples in my usual produce section. Checking social media becomes a form of self-harm. Each notification triggers a physical response, quickened pulse, shallow breathing, fingers turning cold. I start documenting every interaction with family in a leather-bound journal, recording dates, exact wording, witnesses present. The evidence feels important somehow, though I'm not sure who I'm collecting it for. The anonymous text arrives on a Sunday morning. Some people aren't stable enough to attend formal events. Your absence is a kindness to everyone. I recognize the phrasing Aunt Marlene's particular brand of cruelty wrapped in concern. The phone slips from my fingers onto the couch as something inside me finally breaks. The doorbell rings at that exact moment. I consider ignoring it until I hear Isla's voice through the door. I know you're in there, Ocean. I brought Thai food and wedding magazines. She stands on my threshold, clutching a paper bag from Bangkok Kitchen and a stack of glossy publications. Her camera bag is slung over one shoulder. What are you doing here? My voice sounds hollow even to my own ears. Isla pushes past me into the apartment. Let's plan something that's actually worth celebrating, a day that's about joy, not appearances. I'm about to ask what she means when my mother's silver sedan pulls into the visitor parking space visible from my living room window. My stomach clenches. Client call in 5 minutes. I lie, reaching for my laptop as my mother knocks at the door. Isla squeezes my shoulder before retreating to the kitchen with our food. My mother enters without waiting for an invitation, her eyes taking inventory of my living space as if searching for evidence of my supposed instability. We need to talk, Ocean. She sits primly on my couch, her handbag balanced on her knees. This has gone far enough. The invitations are already printed. We're also down this... What invitations? I remain standing, suddenly aware of the power dynamics at play. Fiona's wedding invitations. She smooths an invisible wrinkle from her slacks. You need to let this go. This isn't about an invitation. The clarity in my voice surprises even me. It's about years of being treated as less than. Nadia. My mother's face hardens. If you can't support Fiona's happiness, maybe you're not the daughter I thought you were. The words should hurt, but instead, they illuminate something I've never seen clearly before. I straighten my shoulders, reclaiming the full height I've spent years unconsciously diminishing around my family. I'm exactly the daughter you raised. I tell her, my voice steady. I just stopped accepting the role you assigned me. Something flickers across her face, surprise, perhaps even respect before she composes herself. But in that moment, I realize a fundamental truth that changes everything. My worth isn't determined by family validation. It never was. Later that evening, Isla and I sit on my balcony, half-eaten Thai food between us. She scrolls through her calendar on her phone. I have a client photo shoot in Santa Barbara 3 weeks later. Come with me. We'll make it a working vacation. I could use an assistant. The offer brings unexpected tears to my eyes. While my family crafts excuses for my exclusion, my friends are creating alternatives for my inclusion. My phone chimes with a text from Thomas. Just declined my invite to Fiona's wedding. Not going somewhere my friend isn't welcome. The next morning, I wake up and speak confidently about my design business during a networking breakfast for the first time in months. 3 potential clients request follow-up meetings. Something has shifted inside me, a quiet certainty replacing the desperate need for approval. When Isla and I arrive in Santa Barbara 3 weeks later, the Pacific Ocean stretches before us like possibility itself. At a small bookshop near the marina, I meet Mateo, the owner with kind eyes and a quiet laugh who asks thoughtful questions about my design work. "You should see my place at sunset," he says after our 3rd coffee together. "I restored an old seaside villa just north of here. The light is perfect for someone with your eye for design." Standing on his terrace that evening, watching the sun sink into the ocean, a thought forms with unexpected clarity. What if the answer isn't fighting for inclusion in a celebration that doesn't want me? What if I wrote a different story for myself entirely? 2 months later, my phone sits on Mateo's kitchen counter, its screen displaying a half-finished invitation design. The coastal villa's morning light streams through tall windows, illuminating the space where 18 place settings will soon host the only people who truly matter in my life. "What do you think about this font pairing?" I point to the screen, where elegant script contrasts with clean sans serif text. "Too predictable?" Mateo leans forward, the scent of his coffee mingling with the salt air drifting through open windows. "It feels like you, confident but not shouting for attention." I smile, making a small adjustment to the spacing. For 3 weeks, every spare moment has gone into planning this gathering. Not a reaction to family drama, but a celebration reflecting who I've become. Each element from hand-pressed botanical prints to custom playlists showcases my professional talents while honoring genuine connections. May 15th, I say, tracing the date on screen. Far enough from Fiona's wedding that no one can claim I'm being competitive. "Does it matter what they think?" Mateo asks, his voice gentle but challenging. "It matters that I know my intentions." I save the file and close my laptop. This isn't about them anymore. For the first time since finding those bridal shower photos, excitement bubbles up without the bitter aftertaste of rejection. I'm creating rather than reacting, building something authentic rather than fighting for space where I'm unwanted. My phone rings, Aunt Marlene's name flashing on screen. I consider letting it go to voicemail, then decide against it. I'm done hiding. "Hello?" My voice comes out steady, professional. "Ocean." Her voice could freeze water. "What's this I hear about you planning some vacation during family wedding season? You need to take down those social media posts immediately." I frown, confusion momentarily replacing caution. "What posts?" Isla's photography page. The save the date announcement for your event. At a seaside villa? On May 15th? My stomach drops. May 15th? But Fiona's wedding isn't until June. Silence stretches between us. When Marlene speaks again, her voice drips with artificial sweetness. "Oh, didn't you know? The date was moved weeks ago. May 15th at the Grand Monarch Hotel. Everyone's been informed. Everyone except me." "So you're having your little party the same day as Fiona's wedding?" The accusation hangs in the air. Family will take sides, Ocean. Think about what you're doing. My first instinct is panic. Should I change my date? Apologize for a conflict I didn't create? But as Marlene continues listing reasons I should rearrange my plans, something hardens inside me. I look at the invitation design, at Mateo setting coffee mugs in the sink, at the home that welcomed me without conditions. "I won't rearrange my joy to accommodate your judgment," I say quietly. "What did you just say to me?" "The date stays, Aunt Marlene. Anyone who wants to attend either event should follow their heart. You've made yours clear." I end the call before she can respond. Mateo watches me carefully, waiting. "Apparently Fiona's wedding is the same day as our celebration," I tell him. "Complete coincidence. Do you want to change our date?" The question hangs between us. With both ceremonies now scheduled for the same day, I faced a choice: postpone my celebration to avoid conflict, or proceed with the day Mateo and I had planned. Was preserving peace with people who excluded me worth disrupting my own happiness? No. I answer finally. We're keeping our date. Mateo nods, understanding without needing explanation. This is the difference between chosen family and blood ties. One requires performance, the other offers acceptance. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzes with Isla's message. Saw your final invitation design. Gorgeous. Consider photography services my gift to you both. I smile, typing back my thanks. Within minutes, a group chat forms with friends, coordinating travel plans, turning our gathering into a weekend celebration. Thomas offers to handle wine selection, while Jana wants to arrange flowers from local markets. You focus on the creative stuff. Mateo says that evening, showing me spreadsheets, tracking accommodations and transportation. I've got logistics covered. As we work side by side, him managing practical details, me designing personal touches, I realize we're creating something neither of my parents would understand. This isn't about reaction, but intention. Not about competition, but completion. My phone begins buzzing constantly with family messages, but friends create a protective buffer. When Aunt Marlene sends a paragraph about selfish choices, Isla responds with oceanfront venue photos. When my mother texts asking how I could do this, Mateo hands me paint swatches for table settings. A week before our celebration, an unexpected text arrives from my cousin Rachel, whom I haven't spoken to in months. Grandmother's asking questions about why you weren't invited to anything. Marlene's story isn't holding up anymore. I read it twice, unsure how to respond. The next day, another message arrives, this time from Uncle David. Something doesn't add up about this wedding drama. Fiona keeps changing her explanation. The family narrative, so carefully constructed, begins showing cracks. Different relatives have been told different versions of my exclusion, and the contradictions are becoming noticeable. When my grandmother's name appears on my phone that evening, I answer immediately. Ocean? Her voice sounds smaller than I remember. I'd like to hear your side of this wedding business. Before I can form a response, another call beeps through my mother. I let it go to voicemail, focusing on my grandmother's questions. Later, I listen to my mother's message, her voice strained with forced casualness. We need to talk about a compromise. Can we meet tomorrow? It's urgent. I set the phone down, looking out at the sunset, painting Mateo's garden in golden light. For the first time, the thought of facing my family doesn't fill me with dread. Whatever comes next, I'm standing on solid ground. The knock on my door comes at 8:15 on a Tuesday morning, 3 days before my ceremony. Through the peephole, I see my mother clutching her purse with white knuckles while Aunt Marlene stands beside her, designer handbag dangling from a tight grip. I consider pretending I'm not home, but the truth needs addressing eventually. Ocean, sweetheart. My mother's voice carries forced cheer as she steps into my condo. We thought we should talk. Aunt Marlene follows, her gaze sweeping critically across my living room where design samples for my ceremony with Mateo lie neatly arranged. This has gone far enough, she says, not bothering with pleasantries. I remain standing while they settle onto my sofa. The power dynamic feels different now. In their presence, I no longer shrink. We'd like to propose a compromise, my mother says, hands fidgeting with her wedding ring. You can attend Fiona's reception, the evening portion only. If her eyes meet Marlene's briefly, you cancel your party. Think about how this looks to everyone, Aunt Marlene adds. 2 events on the same day divides the family, forces people to choose sides. Quote, my mother leans forward, voice dropping. Your grandmother is very stressed about this situation. At her age, this kind of family conflict isn't good for her heart. The manipulation is so transparent, it almost makes me laugh. Instead, I walk to my drafting table and return with a leather portfolio. I'd like to show you something, I say, opening it to reveal watercolor sketches of an intimate seaside ceremony. This is what Mateo and I have planned. 18 guests, no formal invitations, just people who genuinely care about us. I turn pages slowly, showcasing menus I've hand-lettered, custom place settings, flower arrangements in shades of amber and sage. The date was set weeks before I learned about Fiona's wedding. I explain, voice steady. We didn't choose it to compete. We chose it because the villa has perfect sunset lighting for photography. My mother's brow furrows in confusion. But why didn't you tell us? I pull out another folder containing mock-ups of elegantly designed invitations I never sent. I respected your decision to exclude me. I didn't think you'd want to know. She looks genuinely stunned. Ocean, we never meant. I'm not asking anyone to choose. I interrupt gently. You made your choice months ago. This celebration isn't about Fiona. I close the portfolio. It isn't even about you. Aunt Marlene stands abruptly, pacing toward my design wall where client projects hang alongside ceremony plans. This doesn't change anything, she insists. Playing dress up won't change that Fiona's wedding is the real event. I feel something snap inside me, not in anger but in clarity. I'm not playing anything, Aunt Marlene. I'm living authentically while you're performing. I gesture toward my portfolio. These designs aren't pretend, they're my profession. The profession you've dismissed as that little hobby for years. I slide a brochure across the coffee table. This is my wedding portfolio. 3 national brands have hired me based on these designs. While you were telling everyone about my jealousy issues, I was building a business that pays for this condo. My mother sinks deeper into the sofa, eyes lingering on a photo of Matteo and me at his villa. For the first time, she seems to see beyond her sister's narrative. Were we really that cruel? She asks quietly. Aunt Marlene snorts, grabbing her purse. This is ridiculous. I'm not sitting here while she twists everything around. She storms toward the door but pauses with her hand on the knob. Fiona's wedding cost $95,000. It's at the Grand Hotel. There will be 200 guests. That's what a real celebration looks like. I smile, not unkindly. That sounds lovely for Fiona. I hope she feels truly seen there. After Marlene slams the door, my mother remains seated, looking smaller than I've ever seen her. You taught me I wasn't worth including. I tell her, voice soft but firm. I taught myself I was worth celebrating. She opens her mouth to respond, but her phone chimes with a text. She reads it, face paling slightly. What is it? I ask. Your cousin Deborah is asking if she can come to your ceremony instead of Fiona's. She looks up, bewildered. How does she even know about it? I shrug. People talk, the same way they talked about excluding me. After my mother leaves, promising to think about everything, I water my balcony garden, wondering which ceremony she'll attend, if either. My phone rings just as the sun slips behind downtown buildings. Ocean? Matteo's voice sounds excited. You won't believe this. That wedding blog I told you about, Modern Celebrations, they want to feature our ceremony. They love the idea of an intimate designer's wedding that focuses on authenticity over extravagance. I lean against the railing, watching a cardinal land nearby, the same vibrant red as the one I'd seen the day I discovered the bridal shower photos. The story was shifting in ways I never anticipated. I whisper, more to myself than to Matteo. For the first time since this all began, I feel neither sad nor angry, just free. 7 weeks after our ceremony, I nearly drop my phone when Matteo shows me the statistics. 80,000 likes on our wedding photo. The number seems impossible, yet there it is on the screen, along with hundreds of comments praising our authentic celebration of love. Look at this one, Matteo says, pointing to a comment from a popular design blogger. Ocean's attention to meaningful details rather than empty extravagance redefines what a modern ceremony can be. I laugh softly, remembering all the family gatherings where I sat silently while relatives fawned over Fiona's conventional choices. Now strangers are celebrating my vision, while my family's Grand Hotel wedding has faded into the background of social media memory. My design business calendar now bulges with appointments. 3 major brands have reached out since the wedding feature went viral, tripling my client base overnight. Yesterday, an editor from California Wedding Quarterly emailed about featuring our ceremony, specifically requesting an interview about my design work. The irony? I tell Matteo as we sit on our balcony watching the sunset paint Portland's skyline. They excluded me to keep me from stealing focus. And now, the doorbell interrupts my thought. A courier delivers a cream-colored envelope with Aunt Marlene's distinctive handwriting. Inside, a terse letter demands I decline the magazine feature, out of respect for Fiona's privacy during this difficult time. My hands should be shaking. 7 weeks ago, they would have been. Instead, a calm clarity washes over me as I tuck the letter back into its envelope. What will you do? Matteo asks, his voice gentle. I walk to my desk and pull out a copy of the magazine that featured my design portfolio last month. I slip it into a mailing envelope with a note I've composed without hesitation. I'm not competing with Fiona. I'm completing my own story. Note. No anxiety floods my system as I seal the envelope. No desperate need for approval tightens my chest. The transformation still surprises me how completely I've stopped seeking validation from people determined to withhold it. 2 days later, Isla calls with news that sends me spinning through our apartment. The showcase is confirmed, she announces. 30 designers, and you're the headliner. My friends have organized a rewritten design showcase at a restored estate near Seattle, featuring artists who've reimagined traditional approaches. The event emphasizes authentic connection over manufactured perfection, substance over performance. At the opening reception, Isla raises her glass. To writing ourselves into stories worthy of our lives, she toasts, and the room erupts in applause. I stand among people who celebrate rather than diminish my vision, and the contrast to family gatherings couldn't be starker. The following month, Mateo and I move into a modest apartment overlooking downtown. The space is smaller than my condo, but filled with light and possibilities. My calendar now includes speaking engagements about authentic design alongside client meetings with companies that value substance over flash. I'm arranging prints for my office wall when the doorbell rings. When I open it, Aunt Marlene stands there with Fiona slightly behind her. Enthapted. "We need to talk," Marlene says, pushing past me into the apartment. "This has gone far enough." Fiona looks uncomfortable as Marlene continues. "Was all this necessary? The magazine? The showcase? Were you so determined to make a point?" I study their faces. Marlene's indignant, Fiona's uncertain, and feel a surprising wave of compassion. "You think this is about you?" I ask quietly. "It's the first time I've celebrated without worrying how you'd twist it. That's all." They leave shortly after, Marlene stiff-backed and silent, Fiona with a backward glance I can't quite interpret. As I watched them leave the showcase, I wondered if healing family wounds requires both sides to acknowledge the injury, or if sometimes the healthiest path is to simply tend your own garden and let others make their choice. What would you do? Work to repair relationships that cause such pain, or focus on nurturing the connections that helped you bloom?